So a little while ago, I made a video on DrApeis and some of the issues I had with him. This video was like yesterday or the day before, depending on whenever this goes up, because YouTube demonetized it for like 3 days, but it was actually made like a week ago. Some people called me biased in that video, but I was really just replying to the evidence I'd seen, honestly, as to the opinions I had from it. After this video, I spoke to YandereDev himself, Choco Nannikins, and some other people including Shortcake about this whole drama. Which, in the goal to be clear, YandereDev accepted my criticism, so step in the right direction, Fim. But in this video that I made, I didn't cover a lot of the evidence. In this video, however, I like to cover everything against DrApeis. I don't want Love Letter cancelled, but if he doesn't accept the criticism he gets, he's not going to improve. So with that in mind, the first thing I'd like to go over is the lies. And before I go over this, I think I should mention that I'm going for 6.9k subscribers before I turn 16 on August 10th in 4 days. So if you're watching this, please subscribe. I checked the stats and one single person isn't subscribed. So if that's you, make sure to press that button before I actually come to your house and bonk you. I'd also like to mention, I love you guys, and you can join my family in my Discord server link below to chat with me more. Okay, and finally, before I start this, for everyone talking about how AP should be left alone, the guy chose to bring back a sexual harasser for the project. This guy was called Zaid, against the volunteers' pledges and against the votes that were done as to whether he should be brought back. I'm giving AP's criticism so he can improve. With all of this out of the way, let's get started on the video. The first thing I'd like to cover is the lies. Recently, DrApeis admitted to a claim Cameron F305, someone I interviewed, made. This claim suggested DrApeis was another person called Narwhals of Falling. This person had been involved in lots of drama in the past and had to cancel his game Heartbreak because of the drama and his inability to take criticism. However, as of 2 days ago when writing this, DrApeis admitted to being Narwhals. He was already caught in a spider's web, but when people over at Kiwi Farms decided to dox him, which in my opinion was completely unwarranted, you shouldn't dox a person for any reason. However, this dox did in fact reveal DrApeis' identity, which was a shocking revelation to everyone, but it happened nonetheless. However, the lies just got deeper. According to an anonymous source that contacted me with some evidence to verify their identity, DrApeis is still not changing or adapting to the criticism. He's still keeping his voice actors in the dark. He's barely doing anything with them. He's treating them like trash. His managers for them is changing every day. And the source believes Zaid is still somewhat involved in the project as a voice actor. However, they cannot confirm it and they are not certain. However, this new project manager is apparently, quote, good friends with Zaid. And we all know how that goes, like when DrApeis was good friends with Narwhals of Falling. And I can't confirm this is an allegation, but nonetheless, I thought it was worth mentioning. However, this rabbit hole goes deeper. DrApeis has been called out for several things lately, like avoiding criticism, raiding videos, many videos by Cameron, and so much more. It's shocking that this wasn't out sooner. Aside his clear mistreatment of the voice actors and artists such as Shortcake that he worked with, it seems everything's just gotten worse behind the scenes. So with this video, I'd like to look at a document in particular that shows how untrustworthy DrApeis really is. This document shows Maddock apologising that he knew Apeis had secretly brought Zaid back on the project, and it shows Apeis' scummy methods in trying to evade criticism. It opens with Apeis trying to originally just get Maddock to shut the server down entirely, which Maddock didn't feel comfortable doing, and instead said they should make it public, which Apeis didn't seem comfortable with. But after a small talk, he decided to go with it. In this chat, he tries to downplay the severity of Zaid's actions, excusing them with downplaying stuff like, it wasn't sexual harassment, it was more perverted comments. Then it comes down to the main character's design, where Apeis claims that the current Setsuna is probably the final one, to Maddock's dismay. Further down, it comes to DrApeis claiming NDAs are being put in place. However, the way he reacts to it makes it seem like he's not forming an actual document, but instead a vocal agreement. Kinda like how he did when he claimed to Shortcake and the other artists that any work they submitted could not be redacted. I honestly don't know for sure, because, you know, I don't work on the team. But it does worry me the way he argues this. Further down, Apeis again tries to downplay the sexual harassment and says he doesn't even think it needs to be mentioned, and tries to protect Zaid, even though the sexual harassment was the biggest issue everyone had with the project in general. Then, it continues to Apeis and Maddock working out how to word their statement not to lie about Zaid's secret involvement, which is just generally quite scummy. The statement is a lie by omission, and it shows how little honesty there is with the project in general. How do you trust Apeis to produce a game when he's lied about every part of it? Even the 2 weeks promise is a fabrication, as most of the work is reused from Heartbreak, which had been going since late 2019 from the evidence we have. Within this document again, it shows many staff members removed from the team for barely any reason, despite Zaid still very much being on the team. It does not paint a very pretty picture of how the team's issues are going to conclude. Maddox in his chat very much argues that he believes Zaid should be held accountable, and says he won't support LoveSick further if DrApeis doesn't deal with this. Within this chat it shows DrApeis has contracted Zaid and isn't willing to remove him from the contract, and Maddox concludes that he cannot defend DrApeis after doing this. DrApeis has once again kept everyone else in the dark, told another huge lie, and sacrificed his employees' comfort for an easy worker. I can understand not wanting to lose a good voice actor, however this actor has had serious drama. You have to cut ties fully. You can't lie about cutting ties and then secretly continue to work with him. Now, I'd like to talk about some of the positives. DrApeis has continued to release updates showing new character designs, models, textures, animations, and more on his Twitter. These updates show lots of promise and imply lots of work is being done to push the game. DrApeis also said he's working on his first rival, which means it's a race of time between YandereDev and DrApeis to release the first rival now. All this work suggests we may actually see a Yandere simulator, which is great news. However, we have no real promise, so it's all up to DrApeis to keep putting in the work. He's got the fan base and support and all he needs. Now, he just has to work. If he puts in the time and work, he'll succeed. But he also needs to clean up his act as a whole. He can't expect to succeed when he's not putting in the work. Anyway, I thought it's time that I should probably talk about my conversation with YandereDev, Choco, and Cameron in this video. So I had a 5-hour call between YandereDev, me, and the others, and we talked a lot. And yeah, YandereDev was working the whole time. You could hear him typing and clearly focusing on something else. However, through this talk I learned a lot. YandereDev is working to become more accepting of the memes, which is great news, but he's trying to figure out how to best accept them, which is fair given his biggest meme is literally just a chalice of, well, you know what it is. But he's trying his best to find a way, and further than that, he's planning to potentially release a video going point for point debunking a bunch of the drama related issues, and will also potentially add a drama channel on his server where you can ask questions without the fear of being censored. I personally think this is a great step in the right direction. I gave YandereDev a lot of criticism about how he's handled a lot of the situations, and as far as I can tell, he's made a good attempt to listen and improve. I spoke about how his way of addressing drama wasn't really working, and I learned that him and DrApeis have actually had discussions where they figured out a way to coincide. In this call, YandereDev did obviously say some things that I didn't agree with, like how he didn't watch any drama videos about him and a bunch of other stuff, but of course we won't agree on everything. That makes sense. Overall, this call was very productive and I learned a lot. Although I had this call, YandereDev is very aware that in the future I will still make videos that will criticize him for his mistakes and praise him for his achievements. He's learned I'm not a pushover through this call, and I'm not just going to stop because he tells me to, and also he believes I'm not a gremlin, so you guys can stop calling me one, please. I'm so fed up with those comments. I'm honestly glad I had this talk and that my channel isn't going to get 2 strikes and be threatened. And for those that are really wondering, no, I'm definitely not being held at gunpoint.
Good answer, you love me.
Wait, but why would I do? Okay, well, I understand. Alright, I get it, please, don't shoot, please. I'm sorry, YandereDev, I love you so much, guys. I am so sorry, YandereDev, my videos were not mean, they were, you know, I'm sorry.
Yes, finally, I am in control.
In conclusion, DrApeis needs to resolve his huge overarching issues, take the criticism, improve from it, and be crystal clear and honest with his fans if he wants the game to continue. I want to see Love Letter succeed, but at this rate it's going downhill fast. Anyway, if I'm gonna be real honest with you, I thought you'd probably heard enough of me and my opinion on this. If you haven't, you can check out my Love Letter playlist and subscribe. But if you have, I'd like to pass this on to my smaller YouTube friend. I'm glad I can finally call a YouTuber smaller that I'm working with instead of bigger, who's very much a good YouTuber who you should subscribe to. I brought them on to discuss another document and their issues with this whole thing. I hope you enjoyed their part, and they will be linked below. Without any further notice, thanks for listening to my part. Please do subscribe because I'm trying to hit 6.9k before I turn 16 in 4 days. Anyway, without further ado, I leave it to GhostofGriever.
On the morning of August 4th, DrApeis tweeted confirmation that he is in fact narwhals are falling in response to being doxxed by Kiwi Farms. If you're out of the loop, as a lot of people seem to be, Narwhals Are Falling is the creator of a cancelled project called Heartbreak, a Yandere simulator fan game that received a moderate amount of attention on the Arosana subreddit when it was linked on February 8th, 2020, only to be ultimately cancelled in April 2020. Narwhals Are Falling is also an identity that DrApeis has actively tried to distance himself from since the accusations began. Not long after releasing my video asking DrApeis for an apology, I was handed a WordPress document by a former volunteer from Heartbreak that has now been released to the public. In it are 6 statements from ex-Heartbreak volunteers about their experiences with DrApeis while developing Heartbreak before it was cancelled. According to the volunteers, the project was cancelled suddenly, and some of them weren't even told that it was cancelled and continued working on assets for the game. All but 2 of the volunteers chose to remain anonymous, so take that information as you will. I'll summarize the main points of each statement, but I encourage you to also read the statements in full yourself. I'll be referring to DrApeis as Narwhal as I summarize these. Statement 1 is from a graphic designer and artist who explains how the 20+ volunteers were organized into smaller departments that had little, if no, discourse with one another. This became a significant problem because major decisions were being made without any input from other departments, and information wasn't consistently being exchanged between those departments. Statement 2 is from an artist and former lead writer. They share a variety of screenshots and a list of what the writers on the Heartbreak team did, including writing a 96-page lore book and a plot outline. They explain how the original Heartbreak Volunteers Discord server was deleted after Love Letter mods Ludwig, Rebus, and Rain speculated that DrApeis was in fact Narwhal in the Love Letter moderation chat. There are also some anecdotes about Narwhal, from rash decision-making to him repeatedly forgetting about a particular volunteer. The volunteer also added this to the end of their statement. If you read this, Nar, I don't think you're irredeemable. At the moment, it seems you cannot see that you've done anything wrong. The only time you apologize is when there's irrefutable evidence against you. If you ever are actually sorry for this downward spiral, we could be friends again, but I'm not holding my breath. I'll leave you with this. Whether you can program or not, you shouldn't be the one in charge of a project. P.S. If these don't seem like a big deal to you, you're pretty much correct. I thought they were a very sweet person, as did most others, which is why their sudden flip of personality was so shocking to me. The main point is that they're a changed person, with the flaws I could barely notice before becoming amplified. Statement 3 is from a graphic designer named TryAnD, and in the form of a screenshotted Discord conversation between her and another individual. She calls Narwhal the equivalent of a deadbeat dad, and that he had what she referred to as a concrete and seemingly manageable plan, only to dip like he was going out to buy cigarettes. Statement 4 is from an artist, and also in the form of a Discord screenshot. It says, "Well, I already told of the time I was trying to help with the lack of modelers problem by providing them with the process of using the Vroid models and fixing them up in a blender, yet it fell on deaf ears." Statement 5 is from a graphic designer and artist who says they were 14 at the time of joining the project. Amidst some self-deprecating comments about their past art, they explained that there was a lack of feedback beyond things like, "It's fine," after spending hours to days on certain parts of the game. This volunteer also talks about a point where Narwhal asked them to help with another project, speculating that that might have been the point where Narwhal decided he was done with Heartbreak. Statement 6 is from Rebus, a former co-lead writer for Heartbreak and one of the 3 moderators from Love Letter, then called LoveSick, who were booted after suggesting that DrApeis was Narwhal. Rebus has released a statement before about the situation prior to DrApeis' admission that's been circulated among the community, and it's still available if you should so choose to peruse it. Rebus' statement is more of an active warning towards those who want to volunteer with Love Letter, providing information that backs up the previous 5 statements, and explaining how the only core difference between Love Letter and Heartbreak is that Heartbreak never received the publicity that Love Letter did. I argued in a previous video on my channel that Love Letter's popularity exploded because it crossed paths with YandereDev subreddit and email being stolen on July 3rd. And although unrelated, it was like an extra little screw you YandereDev cherry on top. Rebus outlines the work the volunteers did for Heartbreak, only to have the project summarized in a single statement by DrApeis that I'm sure stung to read. Now you might be asking, okay Ghost, why does all of this matter? Well, it shows a concerning pattern of behavior that so far seems to be continuing with Love Letter. My original opinion on the subject was that if DrApeis wants to distance himself from this drama, then he needs transparency with his audience. But that's only half of it. He's been faced with many situations now where his lack of transparency with his own team and those close to him has come back to him in some sort of drama. The number one question I receive from my community members is, why do things like this keep happening, especially when Love Letter is merely a month old? And that's a complicated question that is, quite honestly, a matter of opinion. I already said he needs transparency with his team, but there are other pieces to the puzzle that are the Love Letter drama, such as the apparent age of his fan base, which is something that troubles me personally. I worry that they're learning that certain behaviors are okay so long as you keep apologizing, when, frankly, the best way to show others you're sorry is to not repeat certain behaviors. There will be situations where things just flat out aren't other people's business. While you'll have fans who support you through thick and thin, it doesn't benefit you to use those fans as a crutch when you're engaging in things that are indefensible. Early on in the project, DrApeis did admit to some lies, and I admit that this was a red flag in hindsight. People have their reasons for lying, most certainly. But I can at least speak for myself that when someone lies again and again and again, it gets harder and harder to trust them when they tell you something as simple as the grass is green. I don't always like to bring up age, but it is most certainly a factor as well, because while age doesn't always reflect your qualifications, it can highlight a lack of life experience vital to doing things like, say, managing a large group of people. Like it or not, DrApeis is in the public eye now, and fans and critics will be watching him closely to see how he handles things going forward. My father always tells me that he's never afraid when the phone rings. What he means by this is that he isn't worried about any lies or misdeeds catching up to him, and that he doesn't have regrets because he's lived a life of integrity. It's advice that I impart to anyone, not just those looking to put themselves in the public eye in some regard. Look at even your best decisions and ask yourself how you can do better. And if you're afraid to hear the phone ring after making that decision, then maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing.
Anyway, that's it for this amazing video. As I said, feel free to join my Discord, subscribe, and follow my Twitter. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this more formatted style of video with the character sprites at the start. Thanks to Azure, my Patreon and constant supporter, who's given me a grand total of 20 months of Nitro in gifts. Thank you for the support, Azure. It helps so much, but really, come join my Discord. I'm active 13 hours a day there, and everyone is always having fun. It's linked in the description and probably the pinned comment, but you really just won't regret joining, so feel free to subscribe. You can always unsubscribe later, and make sure to check out GhostofGriever, who gave me their time to appear in this video, so thanks for that. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Says she wanna rock with a nigga like me. I'm a stylish guy. Spend a little guap with a nigga like me. We can catch a fly. Says she wanna rock with a nigga like me.